So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews here on Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited to be joined by the fantastic Sally Carman, of course, from Coronation Street. How are you? It's a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, I'm really well, Matthew. Thank you. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. And I suppose I should actually call you Sally Carman-Duttine, as you recently got married. So I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we did it. We tied the knot, as they say.
And obviously, for anyone who isn't aware, obviously you're married to Joe, who of course plays Tim on the show. I mean, you got married abroad, I believe. So what was that like? That must have been amazing.
No, we didn't. We didn't. We got married. Funny because we've kind of kept it to ourselves a little bit. So people have assumed what's gone on and whatnot. But we got married at my local church in Salford, and it was just immediate family. So there's only like 17 of us, including the vicar and his wife, who's a really good friend of mine. And then we left everyone in the church and flew to Verona, and they all went for a meal. So yeah, we jibbed out, and it was fantastic.
And then, of course, you came back and did something with the rest of the cast to let them celebrate as well.
Well, we then had a party at Johnny's sister's farm, and it was just our close friends and family again. But you know, when you're working with people day in day out, you become close to them. So yeah, quite a few of the Corrie cast came, and it was just.
And I mean, I must say, of course, Joe appeared on my show last year, an absolute gent. So, you know, send my best to him as well. Now, for you, where did the love of acting come from? I mean, do you remember kind of where you first became interested in acting?
I get asked this, and it's a funny one because I never did any drama at school because it wasn't an option. I did 2 school plays when I was 9 and 10, and that was it. But I always knew I was going to be an actor, always, from like, it was just always what I was going to do. Yeah, I didn't do anything with it. And then I left school and I went to do a BTEC. I've got my dog here, by the way. He's got a sore paw and he keeps licking it. Pack it in. And I got kicked off that BTEC twice. I was also in a band, and that kind of took precedent, and I was like out singing and wearing leather trousers and drinking pints. So that's kind of what happened there. And then my dad very cleverly went, "You're never going to do this acting thing because you're not focused. You obviously don't want to do it." And I went, "I do." And he said, "Well, get on with it then." And so I applied for a load of drama schools and got in at Lambda in London, and that was it. That was it.
I mean, obviously, you know, you did Shameless. You've done so many amazing roles over the years, but you know, people will know you. The last 5 years you've been doing Coronation Street. I can't believe it's been 5 years. It's flown by that time. But to join a show like Coronation Street, do you remember kind of how it came about? Do you remember the kind of the process?
It's been coming about for 22 years, this job. I've had so many auditions for Coronation Street. I'm talking probably about 40. And about 10 screen tests, and to get to screen test level you've got to have numerous auditions previous and all of that, so it's been ongoing. And I'm really glad I didn't get any of the, I mean at the time I wasn't, but I'm really glad I didn't get any of the roles previous, because this is the right one, and this one came about through a phone call. I didn't even have to audition for it. So it was just, yeah, it was just the right time in every respect. And I just love playing Abby. And the first day I remember, because I know a lot of people on the show anyway, just because when you've been around a bit, you do. But to walk down the cobbles and see the Rovers, yeah, I did get a little bit of a, oh my goodness, it's unavoidable, because as we all know, whether you watch it now or you watched it then, I mean, I grew up with it in my living room. It's as simple as that. I loved it. And Barbara Knox is one of the reasons I wanted to be an actor, or she kind of cemented it, because I remember I was about 10 and it was the whole Alan Bradley storyline, the tram line, and her performance, she just knocked me out, as did Beck Gilroy. I can't remember the story line, but I remember Julie Goodyear sat in the back of the Rovers with no makeup on. She looked horrendous, with a big beehive and a fag in her hand with the cigarette holder. And I was just like, oh, you're amazing. And I just thought, I want to do that. I want to do that. So I'm now getting to do it.
Now, I mean, before Abby came along, I mean, are you able to say some of the characters that you went for that didn't get?
Yeah, I can happily tell you. But the thing is, I can't remember half of them because there's been that many. But there was Shona. There was oh my goodness, Haley Tomidon's character, and pretty much everyone who's been in the factory I auditioned for. There was, that's the dog, Kate, who was in it. I can't remember her character. No, Kate, that was her character name, who was one of the Carla's lot.
Oh,
yeah.
Faye Brooks' character, Kate.
That's it, yes. Her. There's been so many, and I can't. It's terrible because my brain's so bad, but I'm menopausal. So yeah, it's been crazy, and to the point where my mum stopped watching it for a bit because she said, all I can see on this show is people that you've auditioned for, these characters, and you haven't got. She said, you spoilt it.
I mean, that's the thing, is you've been there now it's been about 5 years. I mean, for you, when you first stepped foot, I mean, obviously, I imagine, like you said, that the seeing the iconic area that is, you know, Weatherfield and Coronation Street must be amazing. But when you're taking those first steps on and you're meeting the cast, and I know you sort of knew some already, but that feeling of, you know, I finally got to the place I've been trying to get to for so long. How was that? That must have been a pinch me moment.
It was funny because on one hand, it felt like I'd been there forever. It just felt like, yeah, this feels right. I think there was one pinch me moment, and that was, actually there was two. It was my first scene in the Rovers with Mike Lavelle and Al Halsall, and that was like, whoa. And then there was meeting Barbara Knox and me sort of saying how she was one of the reasons I wanted to become an actor, and she was so gracious, and she's like royalty, you know. And I nearly sort of like backed off bowing because it was just like, oh my goodness, there's Rita. But yeah, that was like, wow, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Now, obviously, when you first joined the show, the character was kind of, I don't want to say unliked, but obviously but of course. Right. She obviously came in as Seb's mum, and we were sort of learning about kind of Seb's past. So getting to know the character in the early days, what was that like? How was that for you?
Well, you only get this. You kind of not really told that much. You get a little bit of a breakdown, like she's down and out, alcoholic, had struggles, and then you just get your scripts, and you got to figure it out for yourself, really. But I somehow always get cast in these kind of roles, so I'm like, yeah, I could do this. But I knew it was important that I had to find something I liked about her, though it had to be something redeeming. And, you know, anyone who's struggling with addiction or anything like that, that comes from trying to numb a pain, you know, and a rawness. So I kind of came from that angle. And luckily the actors, the writers picked up on that, and we managed to forge something out of this quite broken character. And I don't ever want her not to be broken, because we're all kind of broken anyway, but I love that she's so flawed. But I also think it's really important and imperative that she has a really good heart, and she does.
I mean, obviously, you know, she's been there and she's gone through so much, and we will talk a bit more in detail about some of the storylines. But I mean, over the time, do you love the way that her kind of story has gone, and that, you know, she's gone from being kind of hated to now people just love her? The character is loved so much, and she's a real, you know, integral part of the show now.
Well, it's the dream, isn't it? Because you can never tell with these things. You see so many actors come onto Coronation Street, really well established, brilliant actors, new actors who just got something special, and it doesn't work. And then other times, you know, it just does. And I just feel, like, so grateful that it's worked, and that, you know, there's been a turnaround and people do like her now. And that's mainly down to the brilliant writers. They have to write so much. It's 3 hours of television every week. It's a lot. And they do it. And they manage to, you know, get all these nuances and these character traits and these very different voices for each different character, and it's just remarkable, really. So yeah, for that to happen is, yeah, that's just something that makes me smile and that I'm extremely grateful for.
And I mean, did you ever imagine that 5 years on, you'd still be there, still going strong, and the character's still thriving?
I never tried to think too far ahead, but you know, I'd hope that that would be the case, and now that it is, yeah, I'm absolutely over the moon about it. Yeah, it's brilliant, and it's a weird job. It's like a time warp, Coronation Street, because in any other job, you feel like if you've been there 5 years, like on Shameless, when I was there after being there 5 years, it felt like 5 years. But with Corrie, it just feels like I joined yesterday, and that can only be a good thing, surely. But I remember speaking to Sal Dinover about this, and she's like, look, I've been there 37 years, I think it is now. She's like, I feel like I joined yesterday. She's it's so bizarre but brilliant. And I'm like, yeah, that is. It's something else if you can say that.
And I mean, of course, I imagine you must get a lot of feedback from the fans on social media. I mean, what is the response like from the fans online?
To be honest, it's two things they talk about more than anything. It's either my teeth or my nails. It's that's it. They're the two things. When all that when all that stuff was happening with Seb, that was really lovely. I got a lot of really positive, feedback about how good that was, and that was really, really touching, because I really did try to, because that's such a big thing, and of course I've never been through anything like that, but so many people have. So I was really, really sensitive to getting it right as well as I could. But overall, generally, it is my teeth and my nails. And it's like, why would she have perfect nails in the garage? And I'm like, okay, so shall I tell you the story as to why she's got red nails?
Go on then.
So there was the whole slavery storyline with Roxandra. And I had to go undercover as much as Abby ever would to get her nails done to see what was happening. And because I was in so much, it was continuity. So there was never a point where I could get rid of the red nails. So they've just stuck. Obviously, I've had some time off, so you can see they're no longer red. But when I go back, they'll be red again, because now I feel like people are so, like, I don't know, delightfully outraged by it, that it's got to stay. But also, she's a mechanic, but gel nails are very strong, stronger than my own nails, and she wears gloves, so I think it's okay. And as for the teeth, they go, how would a drug addict have such nice teeth? Okay, you know what, all the teeth fell out because she took drugs, and so she had to have fake ones put in, so veneers.
Now, obviously, you touched upon it, and we have to go back and talk about, obviously, the Seb storyline where, he obviously was killed. The storyline was so well done. I mean, soaps, in my opinion, soap acting, soap performances are always top of their game. But you in particular were just over and above performances we've seen before. I mean, how do you do it? How do you keep that level of high drama going for such a long period of time?
Well, it's interesting because it takes on a life of its own after a while, and I'll tell you why. So initially, when you get a storyline like that, as an actor, you're like, whoa, yes, I'm going to get into this, is brilliant. And for me, acting is all about connecting to something personal or an emotion. And it doesn't have to be the same thing. It can be anything. But as long as it's real, that emotion's real, it doesn't matter. So that was my process. But then when you are doing something that's sustained, and that's so, elongated, and you've got to sustain it, then because the hours are so long, and it is a little bit relentless, you kind of just want to cry anyway. So I was turning up to work, and I'd got like 12 scenes a day, and I'm like, this is easy. I was like, so it wasn't a problem at any point, to be honest.
I mean, do you ever get to a point where you go home and all you want to do is just curl up and get into bed, sort of thing?
Oh, yeah, that's all I did. For a good year, I was coming home, learning lines, going to bed, getting up. At the weekends, it'd be learning lines. And Joe was so brilliant. He just sorted out food. We didn't really do much on the weekend. He went off and did stuff, but I was just like so tired. and he was awesome. And yeah, and he'd sort of like, I'd be like going up to bed with my scripts, and he'd be like, right, night night. And I'd be, yeah, see you in the morning. But got through it, and it was good. But it was always something that, even when it was hard and tiring, it was still brilliant. You know, it was still like, wow, I get to do this.
And I mean, like you were saying, it must be a real honor to get that storyline, because obviously you're doing it not just for the character and for yourself, but there's so many people, like you say, that have been through similar situations in real life, and you want to do them proud and you want to tell their story correctly.
Yeah, that's it. And through it, I've got really close to a couple of charities, which is a Motherwell charity, which helps women who have had difficulties and who have ongoing difficulties due to relationships with their children and all that kind of thing. And there's Project Pearl, which is again attached to my local church, which is to support and find proper support and help in homes for sex workers. Throughout the whole since Abby's sort of appeared, I've had a lot of people reach out and say, I've had those struggles. It's really nice that it's not a two-dimensional character who's doesn't care, has had their children take away, and is like, yeah, whatever. It's, you know, so many women have come up to me and said, my heart is broken, but I'm not in a position to look after my children right now, and I know it's best for them, but it's so hard if you're addicted or you've had trauma in your life. It was an eye-opener, but it also just made me realise how much soaps, you know, do make a difference. They're on in your living rooms, and if people can connect to something and feel that they're not on their own, I just think that's a brilliant thing. And I don't take that responsibility lightly at all. I think it's really important to try to listen and to try and make it as truthful as possible.
And the one thing that's so evident on screen is that the research has been done, and that you've really done your homework on you know, the storyline and making it, like you say, as real as possible.
Yeah. Well, I did, and I spoke to as many people as I could, and it can get too sort of bogged down with the details, but essentially it's about love and not feeling good enough, and a separation, a detachment, and just that's sort of like that hopelessness, and we can all feel that in different ways. But yeah, it was just really important to get the heart of it right, I guess.
And I mean, I say the good thing with the story, obviously, you know, it is a tough story, but the thing that's great about doing it in a soap is that, you know, you never get over the loss of a child, and it's something that you can continue to explore way on into the future. You know, this is a storyline that will never end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like from what I know with grief, it never goes away, it just changes, and it changes you. Doesn't mean you can't be happy again, but I think there's a lot of guilt can be attached to that as well. So yeah, there's many layers to this particular onion.
And I mean, the other thing, which is, you know, a nice little positive to come out of it, is that obviously you got nominated for all the awards going, I think, at one point. You know, you do such an amazing job, and I mean, thoroughly deserved. And I mean, what's it like when, you know, you get nominated or even win, you know, the soap awards or the TV awards? What's that like?
Yeah, it's lovely. And what was really nice, when I didn't win, someone I really loved won. And it was just like, oh, that's amazing. So it literally is a win-win. The only downside is you have to spend a fortune on dress dresses. So I'm like, I can't be nominated for anything else. I can't afford any more of these dresses because they're not cheap, Matthew. But yeah, brilliant. And they're funny things awards, but if you're with the right people, you can have a really good time. So yeah, you know, it was nice, and it's important when those moments come to enjoy them, but not to take them too seriously, you know.
Now, I mean, obviously, another big storyline which has been more recent is, of course, you know, the baby storyline, and, you know, kind of Abby trying to prove that she can be a good mum. Getting to work with, you know, the likes of Georgia Taylor and obviously Charlie, who plays Imran. What was that like? That must be great to work with a new group of people in a way.
Well, it is. It's Corey's got like 90 casts now. There's so many. people. And sometimes when you work with people, it works, and sometimes you haven't quite got that connection. And that's nothing other than just an energy vibe. It's they're lovely people, but luckily I've really lucked out, because I worked with Georgia and Charlie was just a dream. They're gorgeous. They're so gorgeous. So yeah, and obviously Charlie's left now, but I still get to work with Georgia, and we share a dressing room alongside with Julia, and it's just brilliant. I love those girls to death. So yeah, it's great. You're working every day with your friends. It's brilliant.
And I mean, another character that you got to work a bit with, more so during the Seb storyline, but was of course Roy, played by the fantastic David. What is he like to work with? Because I had the pleasure of interviewing the fantastic Hayley, Julie Hellman-Pash, who plays her, and she said that he is just a professional. He's just the best you could imagine to work with. I mean, what is he like?
He's a dreamboat. He's fantastic. He's got the driest sense of humour. He's so quick-witted, very, very funny. But he's on it, and he just can do it. And when you see someone who's like the thin end of the wedge craft-wise, you just in awe of it, and it just makes you up your game as well. And also, if you get to work with, have a relationship with David at Corrie scenes, you're like, oh yeah, this is great. This is like, oh yeah, I'm all right with this. You're in a good place, But yeah, I love having scenes with him. I just think he's remarkable, and he's a really, really nice guy.
I mean, and like you said, there are so many amazing casts. I mean, such a strong cast as well. I mean, are there people you don't get to work with much that you would love to do more with going forward?
Yeah, there's loads. But it's one of those, isn't it? The thing is with with Corrie, when you're there, and the longer you're there, the more you get to sort of like just do you know what? Most of the relationships or the character mergers come from like someone being ill, so a storyline has to be given to someone else, and then these weird little sort of friendships happen on screen that you wouldn't naturally put together, but somehow work. And so I love that when that happens. So yeah, there's lots of people, but there's also people I don't ever want to work with. And I can name you three right now. So one's Cy Gregson, who plays Steve McDonald. Then there's Peter Gunn, who plays Brian, and there's Joe Duttine, who plays Tim.
And is that because they're all just awful?
They're horrible, and all they do is ruin every scene because they just make me laugh, and I genuinely can't work with them because I just get really bad giggles. And I had a storyline with Peter Gunn, and I suggested it, and the upstairs, the writers, they went with it, and I thought, oh yeah, brilliant, I get to work with Peter, and he ruined every scene. I had some really funny lines, and I could barely get them out because he absolutely just trampled all over me with what he was doing, because he's the funniest man I think I've ever met in my life. I just adore him, but I never want to work with him ever again.
Now, of course, going back to kind of the sort of the early doors, do you remember the first time that they started pairing you up with Michael Avello, who of course plays Kevin? And did you ever imagine that relationship would work?
I see. I'm very much like anything can work. Yeah, I was never like, oh, this is not going to work. I'm like, right, let's see what they've got. Let's see what we can do. And again, to work with Mike, it was like, oh, this is crazy. He's one of the Corrie legends, and I adore him. He's a really good friend of mine. And I on a personal level, it'd be lovely if they kept us together forever. But story-wise, it'd be good if there was a little bit more drama, I love that they're happy at the minute. I think that's important. But yeah, let's see what happens in the future. But yeah, working with Mike's just the best. Is fabulous.
And I think the other thing as well is I think that the Kevin was great for Abby in the sort of the early stages, and it really helped her to kind of settle down a little bit and to grow the character.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing, isn't it? When you have different personalities and different characters, they bring something that you can bounce off and try different aspects of their personality. So it's always an opportunity to play, and Mike's up for it. Mike's, you know, is the kind of actor I like to work with, because he's not about just acting, he's about reacting and listening, and a scene can just go into different places, and it's like, yeah, this is great. So yeah, no, he's fab to work with.
Now, going briefly back to the pandemic, because I know that obviously there was a period in time when cast couldn't interact much, and it was a tough time. One of the storylines that never obviously came about, but that there were rumours that it could have happened, was an affair between Abby and Tim. Would you have liked to have seen that happen, or do you think that wouldn't have worked?
Oh no, I don't think that was ever on the cards, to be honest. I think that might have been one of those rumours. No, absolutely not. No, no way. No. No, that'd be awful.
Now, I mean, if you were to ever meet Abby in real life, do you think you'd be friends? Could you imagine getting on with her?
Yeah, I can. I can imagine having a laugh with her. I think I'd keep her at a distance, just because she's so explosive. She's not, you know, beyond blowing your house up, or your car, as we know. So yeah, I would like her a lot, but I think I'd be like, you know, I've got a lot on.
And I just also briefly wanted to mention, you know, the fantastic Sue Devaney, who's obviously come in as well. I mean, the kind of relationship between you two just seems to really work. What's she like to work with?
Well, she's one of my bestest friends in the world. So yeah, I mean, it's just she's just brilliant. She again is a legend in her own right, and she's as brilliant as she is. She's as brilliant in real life. She's just gorgeous. She's a real special woman, and the fact that we get to work together, and the fact that we don't like each other, is fab, because it couldn't be further from the truth. She's she's awesome, Sue.
Now, I mean, the final related question I wanted to ask is, if you were kind of given control for a day, where would you like to see Abby go? What would you like to see her get up to?
I think, that's a good one. Let's think. Okay, all right. She would come into a load of money and strut around like Alexis Colby for a month, like buying everything up and doing crazy stuff and buying mental stuff and thinking, and power suits and see what she did, see how she reacted to just coming into a load of money. Yeah.
Now, we have to just briefly, obviously, talk about the amazing NHS. You know, they've been working so hard over the last couple of years. Well, forever, but in particular, the last couple of years. For you, what's your opinion? What are your thoughts on our amazing National Health Service?
I remember when the pandemic was at its worst, and these, you just see it on social media, and these doctors, nurses, volunteers, just orderlies, everyone just literally just so tired, and the strain and everything else, but they tirelessly worked. In fact, I haven't got any words. Whatever I say doesn't even come close to the sacrifices those people made and still are making. And you know, they haven't got the recognition or the help or the support that they should absolutely have. And you know, it's the biggest failing of our country, I think, the way the NHS is going. I think it's an absolute tragedy. But everyone who works in the NHS are just heroes, absolute heroes. And I just bow down and, you know, in awe, quite frankly.
And I mean, to obviously anyone who is in hospital at the moment, not having the best of times, any messages you'd like to send out to them?
Oh, just try not to think too far into the future, and just stay in the moment and make sure your head is in a positive place. Any negative thoughts, just be like, no, all things come good. It'll be fine. We'll get through it, because you will. And, you know, you've just got to stay positive and look for the good, and keep your head straight, as my dad would say. And I just want to send everyone a massive, big virtual hug and all my love. And I hope that you're out of hospital very, very soon.
And of course, they should keep watching Coronation Street, of course. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 8 o'clock on ITV. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Sally, for joining me. Of course, keep safe, and you are welcome back anytime.
It's been a pleasure.